One. All right. Hi, this is our presentation for Itec 421 research project. We're doing our topic. Our topic we chose is on mobile device security. My name's Spencer, and I have Pavel with me.
I'm Pavel Bomar. Alright, so we will be conducting our research on the aspects of mobile device security. More particularly, we will be focusing on the Android mobile device operating system and its many different versions and flavors. Do you want me to go ahead and finish everything, or do you want
I would say just summarize it.
to summarize it?
Yeah, you're not supposed to.
Uh, okay. Alright, so um, mobile device security was one of the topics that was approved by the instructor. So we chose to go with that. And more specifically, we will be discussing the Android mobile operating system. And the Google Play Store is known for having several different security vulnerabilities and different types of hacks and third party, applications that were doing all kinds of malicious things. So um, we're basically going to go over the history of the Android operating system and all the different security vulnerabilities
In the in
that
the
it had to face.
in this presentation, we'll be focusing on two key areas of Android. In particular, we'll be focusing on the Play Store, security issues related to the Play Store, and possible past incidents in terms of apps being malicious apps being snuck into the Play Store, as well as the Android system itself.
Right.
A brief history on the development of Android. Android was around before even iOS was a thing. It was established in 2003 by Android Incorporated, or formerly founded by Palo Alto. Um, Android has gone through several iterations, ranging all the way from 1.0 to the recently announced Android 11.0 back in February. Its primary purpose was actually originally to provide a digital camera on your phone, so you didn't have to carry around a dedicated digital camera with you wherever you go, as well as provide other utilities all in one place on your phone. And of course, since then, is expanded. The point of Android as well was it's supposed to be an open platform that anyone can use. It was to be open source and free to use by anyone. It's largely based on Linux and Java and C Sharp, so anyone can develop anything on it. But as a result of being so open source, it's become fallen victim to many security exploits and issues.
Right. um, so basically, the Android in the very early days, uh, the security was basically a luxury, and but now it has become to a point where it has become absolutely essential in today's world. So here's a summary of the history timeline of the Android mobile operating system and its security features, updates, attacks, vulnerabilities, and all the different patches that was released throughout the years. Um, so the very early days of the Android mobile operating system was actually pretty similar to Apple when they released their iOS platform, mobile platform. And this means that Apple's iOS platform was there was no official Apple store. Um, and actually, one of the articles that I used for this project was speaking about Apple and the Android App Store and its like beginnings, how it started, and it was like comparing the two. So I used the information for the Android because it's all accurate information, but it was actually very fascinating to me how similar uh, both brands went uh, through, how in the beginning there was no Apple store and there was also no Android store, like no official, like Google store for the Android, no official iOS store. So basically, at the time, there were no authorized third-party applications that were available to the general public, and there were no authorized applications that were being developed either. So it wasn't very long before unauthorized 30, third-party applications uh, that were created by all the different hackers and criminals and made them available. You could go ahead and go to the next slide. Do you want to talk about this? You, about Cupcake?
Um,
But I can go. I can continue if you want.
yeah, go
But
ahead.
yeah, Cupcake basically was well, first of all, because right now we're talking about the early days of Android. So basically, in the beginning, when when the first Android came out, there was basically no any kind of store. There was very little support for anything, and Cupcake uh, release, which was Android 1.5, it was released in April 27th of 2009, and that's when they actually had Android actually released its own app store, uh, and so there's little to no vetting of software of any kind of authentication or verification for applications or the operating system. So it was like kind of chaotic, man. And so the Android mobile operating system hasn't not become the target of malicious applications or any kind of threats or attacks yet, and simply because this was because there wasn't enough user audience that was using the Android operating system at the time. So it really hasn't gained the attention of uh, worldwide of hackers yet. And this was similar to the Apple's iOS mobile platform. And in those early days, there was a lot of buzz going around all the different kinds of IT magazines and social media at the time, which was I believe MySpace and Facebook was just coming up. And the computer world in general, there was a lot of buzz and talk going on about the new Android operating system, the new mobile operating platform, and basically Android uh, was pretty much brand new to the mobile um, device arena, and so that was basically the point of this slide is that the hackers, the attackers, and the cyber criminals haven't yet attacked Android in a large type of scenario yet. So yeah, Android Cupcake 1.5 um which was released on April 27, 2009, was Google's answer to uh, not answer, but it was their enhancement of the mobile security.
Right,
In
filling in some of the gaps that Android had initially when first implemented in the store in the early iteration of Android, like fixing some of these vulnerabilities such as internet integer app overflows and prevent the malicious addition of extensions being brutally forced added to your device. Um, also fix some security flaws in Adobe Flash Player, as well as like Exchange applications such as Microsoft Exchange.
Yeah, there's uh a lot. That's why I color coded everything, man, because there was a lot of information to go over in that one slide. And that Froyo Android 2.2 released on January 18th in 2011 uh received some that's when Android received some serious and major security updates into their operating system. Uh, and the next major update from Google would not be added to the Android 2 flavor until November 21st of 2011. So moving on, Google's Android 3 was the next codename Honeycomb was the next generation in the Android's operating system, and it was released on February 22nd of 2011. And this was the very first tablet-only update to the Android system. And Honeycomb actually introduced two very important security updates to the operating system. Hey, can you go back real quick? Because I was gonna read about, because I can't remember this from memory. Honeycomb, what I was saying is Honeycomb introduced two very important security updates to the Android mobile operating system. And you see where I color coded it in dark yellow, and this is just like a note for the instructor that this means that and I have the proper citations and everything, but this just means that this was the author's own quoted words. So Honeycomb introduced the ability to encrypt all user data and the disallowing of the applications uh, from having write access to secondary storage, such as memory cards, for example, outside of designated application storage. All right, man. You want to take over from here,
Um,
or because I've been talking for a while, but I mean I could go
sec-
ahead if you want. Cause
well, with the introduction of Android 4, it further fill in some of the patches that the previous Androids version of Android didn't contain. Introduced stuff like facial recognition, which is still to this day, Android still struggles to get a true facial,
right,
uh,
yeah,
true secure way of
it's
using
not
facial
very
recognition.
secure,
Yeah,
man.
compared to something like Apple's Facial ID, where it uses true 3D scan, depth sensing, and stuff like that, versus the
Yeah,
early iteration of facial recognition on Android, they just use a camera and just look, oh, this looks familiar to
right,
this picture, and you used to be able to fool it with just a picture of someone's face.
yeah. So it was a cool feature, but
Early
it was
iterations
very
weren't very
vulnerable.
good. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
so Jelly Beans, Android 4.2 Jelly Bean, introduced major security enhancements with the introduction of security enhanced Linux. And uh, I researched this, and I have never actually, I didn't even actually know what this was until I did my research, But do you know much about this in particular that you would like to talk about? Or have you used the technology or do you understand it?
you're talking
Uh,
about 4.2.
SE, security enhanced Linux in particular.
So
You
this
were
is
saying,
so this is similar to early iterations of Samsung Knox. They're in other words, what as you mentioned, the parentheses, it's created by NSA and Red Hat. It's just a security module that's custom built for Android.
right, because it's Android is based on open source Linux, so that's why I was wondering.
Big iteration
Uh,
with 4.4 is they introduced enforce mode, which pretty much will block any uh, root injections, malicious injections that can modify the way Android boots. Apple has this down pretty well. It's almost impossible to jailbreak an iPhone, almost. keyword almost. You still can do it, but it's getting harder and harder with each iteration. But almost a lot of these jailbreaks or exploits that are found for either iOS or Android is through stuff like where you modified the boot sequence or inject it in boot. That's what this 4.4 introduced, was to help mitigate that. Um,
Hmm.
Lollipop was probably arguably the most stable version of Android to be released, and it's probably one of the most widely adopted. It was the first time where a large majority of devices for Android became was largely using Lollipop. It provided a lot of security enhancements, such as replacing some of the compilers, Delphic with JIT, and providing major performance increase. Before 5.0, you Android was not very well optimized at all, and it used a lot of resources. So if Android 5
Yeah,
was a
I
huge.
remember. So, I
So
you skipped to the last slide.
yeah, that's
You
essentially
can
one.
go ahead and talk to
So,
Marshmallow.
yeah.
Okay. All right. After um came Marshmallow, uh, Android 6, codename Marshmallow, was released on October 5th, 2015. And of course, just like any of the previous versions, Marshmallow wasn't immune to the many security issues that Android has faced in the past. So, in one example, well, actually, in August 2016, it was discovered that uh, a very large percentage of the Android smartphone devices, about 80%, that were equipped with the Qualcomm chips, they suffer from what would be labeled as quad router vulnerabilities. And the quad router vulnerabilities actually they required malicious apps to be downloaded to a device, and usually this is from not from the official Google Play Store, but from like a third-party application store or a website, and it could basically trick the users to escalate permissions for the app in question, and could commandeer and take control of their devices. Uh, and Qualcomm released patches through handset manufacturers afterwards. So, with the release of Marshmallow flavor, Google published its first Android security bulletin in order to document all the different vulnerabilities and patches that applied to the mobile platform.
Uh,
Um,
so with after Marshmallow and Nougat was introduced, it was the 7 nanometer version. Once again with each iteration, they introduced new uh, features. And this release, they with this release version, they introduced Direct Boot, which was isolated the which is similar to what they're doing now with Android 11, but was the first iteration of it, where they're isolating your storage with your credential encrypted storage. So so apps can't, or pretty much anyone can access what they don't need to do. With Android 11, they're taking that step further, where you're gonna have isolated sandboxes now, where apps cannot access other parts of Android at all. Like it's gonna be in its own little, I guess you could say, Docker, if you're familiar with what Docker is. It's going to have its own little container that the app is going to be contained in, and it cannot interact with any other part of Android.
that's cool, man. It's like a class in C sharp.
And of course, with each iteration of Android, it already improves on the pre-existing fixes they had already implemented. At this point, VPNs actually started to be actually somewhat usable. I know earlier versions of Android using VPN, especially for workplaces, your work VPN weren't very good and were constantly not working. They still don't work, but it's starting to get a little bit better. Oreo was.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I yeah. So Oreo was the eighth uh major release, and but actually the 15th chronologically released Android mobile operating system, and Oreo was released on August 21, 2017, and Oreo introduced a list of major new and really powerful mobile security updates and features, and I listed uh, several of them, such as notification grouping, picture-in-picture support for video, performance improvements, battery usage optimization, and also support for autofillers, the fifth version of Bluetooth, level integration with voice over IP, applications, wide color gamuts,
Gamuts.
and gamuts, and also support for Wi-Fi aware.
So Android Pie was the last version of Android that went off the sweets theme that Android have. With each iteration of Android, they used to name it after certain desserts. Pie was the last one, when with 10 being the new rebranding for Android.
Yeah.
Um, it is currently the most commonly wide used version of Android, with the exception of Android 10. With each iteration, this is around the time with starting from Android Oreo to Android. Yeah, starting with Oreo is when version devices, a large percentage of the share of Android is starting to use the latest and greatest version of Android, which is huge in terms of making sure that devices are staying up to date and secure and receiving the latest security patches. It started. This is also around the time where NFC was introduced to provide enhanced security measures, such as unlocking doors or enhanced payment options, stuff like that. They offer layer security.
And Spencer, just I wanted to mention this, but I was reading about, when you said that Pi was the very last Android version that was named after
Mm-hmm.
desserts, and the reason why is because Google, some employees at Google felt that uh, because Android is so worldwide now, internationally, that they felt that some international communities wouldn't
Wouldn't
understand.
understand.
Yeah, like Americans do, and they because some people don't eat those desserts,
Yeah.
they wouldn't have a frame of reference. So I thought that was kind of cool too.
Yep. And
But
with Android,
I think they should have kept it going, because it was unique.
well, with Android 10, they renamed it to Android Q, or what even what iOS do is they have the internal code names that they use for these latest iterations of Android.
Well, Google officially said that they would drop the Q, that they would just
Right.
say
It's just an
Android
internal
10.
game line.
So they're trying to, I guess that's like modern too, kind of like what Windows did with their Windows 10.
So the big takeaway for Android 10 that was introduced is uh, encryption was better handled with Android 10, meaning so it could better handle 256 bit encryption, because the 256 requires a bit of computing power. What Android 10 does, that made it easier for lower end devices to handle this, and also with this iteration of Android, it made a requirement and mandatory for all Android 10 devices to use device encryption.
Right, right. So completely quiet now. So the Android 10 mobile operating system also includes additional uh, major security updates, features, and enhancements to can you go back one slide just for a second real quick, just so I can remember the term? The feature is the technology is IDAntone, which is one of the encryption cipher that they were using, that's designed for devices that that don't have hardware accelerated support for AES, such as low-end devices. So you could go ahead, go forward. So that's why I wrote this list as an additional list of major security to including to Adiantum.
With Android 10,
Adiantum.
with
Uh,
Android 10, this is the version that also heavily so prior to Android 10, iOS, the competitor, was really big on apps requiring permissions for everything, for any uh, uh, instrument on device that need to be used, whether it be the accelerometer or the gyroscope or anything like that, or the camera, stuff like that. The app would need to get permission from the user. With Android 10, this is when they implemented something similar with Android 10. Now every app on Android requires that any tool on the your device that they need access to, they need to give permission from you, the user. Unfortunately, there's still been exploits found where apps can bypass this, and of course, that goes into the Play Store.
yeah, and that was just a very short list of all the new security features that Android 10 introduces because I was gonna include a lot more than that, but I figured that I mean, and that's just security features. That was like pages of different features that Android 10 included. It would take hours for me to go over all of them. So Google. Now I'm going to talk about Google Play Store because and the reason why I chose to speak about Google Play Store, more specifically, is because it's such a major part of the security. It's such a major part of what Android is. So the operating system is so because it's all online based, cloud based. So Google Play Store, it used to be called the Android Market. I actually remember when the Android Market, it was like a app. It looked like a third party app to me. I remember on those early phones when I was a teenager and a young adult, I guess. And the Google Play Store today is the official app store for the Android mobile operating system, and it's an American digital distribution service that's operated and developed by Google. And basically, the Google Play Store allows users to be able to browse, view, and download applications or mobile programs, uh, such as games with the Android Software Development Kit or SDK, and and then published through Google. And these applications can either be free or you have to pay for them, just like with the Apple Store. And let's see. Google Play Store also functions as a digital media store, and that means users can use the Google Play Store to download music, books, uh, digital books or audiobooks, movies, television programs, and most of this digital media is usually offered for sale to the users. Uh, and Also, it's really important that people don't get Google Play Store confused with the Google Store because those are actually two different entities. The Google Play Store is the Google Play Store that I was just speaking about, where you can download uh, ebooks, games, applications. But the Google Store is a separate online hardware retailer, which is an online hardware retailer that is also developed and operated by Google. But the difference is Google Store, not Google Play Store, but Google Store sells Google hardware devices and accessories, such as like Google Nest, and like cameras and stuff. So really the major difference between Google Play Store and Google Store is um, Google Play Store is software based and Google Store is hardware based. And there's a bit of history to it that in the in the future slides that I went over. They'll make a lot more sense. Um, yeah, and then you want to go ahead and go over this, or you want me to uh,
Go ahead and do this one.
continue? Because I, hmm?
Go ahead and do this one.
Okay. So, so yeah, finishing talk or continuing talking about Google Play Store. So the applications or mobile programs that Android users can download, they can be free or you have to pay for it, or there could be some kind of a subscription charge. And they can be directly downloaded on any Android device to the Google Play to the official Google Play Store mobile application, which usually comes preloaded on most Android devices. Uh, and or you could directly launch the Google Play Store website or the mobile application uh, from the Google Play website. And the Google Play Store had over, and this was actually I got this from Statista 2018, uh, 82 billion application downloads in 2016. So Google Play Store has reached over 82 billion application downloads in 2016 and has reached over 3.5 million applications published in 2017. And the Play Store has also been the subject of many different problems and issues concerning mobile device security in the past, in which malicious type of software or applications have actually been approved and published online to the Google Play Store and then downloaded by hundreds of millions of unsuspecting Android users with different varying degrees of severity. And actually, Google Play Store is known to be to have a lot more problems with that type of issues than Apple's iOS. Apple tends to have a much more secure
Their QA
reputation.
right, their QA department and approval process is much
It's very
stricter.
strict.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So this is the last slide. So uh, so basically, Google Play Store was launched and brought officially online on March 6, 2012. And actually, uh, Google Play Store actually existed before March 6, 2012. And it used to be known as the Android market. But when Google Play Store was launched in 2012, basically what happened was Google basically grouped and merged together the Android market, the Google Music application, the Google eBooks online store application, and it just kind of put them all together. I actually thought there was more uh, applications than that because I remember there was an Android market. I remember there was a music application and I guess an ebook store. I don't really remember it, uh, but I thought there was more. But anyways,
So
you know, hmm?
So essentially, the Google Marketplace was replaced with the Google Play Store, and they implemented their own service similar to what Apple has. So you have your dedicated movie rental site, your
Right.
music, your books, or even some of their own services such as YouTube, Stadia, and Google Nest and stuff like that, all integrated to one place with on Google's platform, similar to how iOS does with their devices and their services. They integrate it all into one platform.
Right, and Spencer, that's what I was talking about in the very bottom, where I was saying about the history of the Google Play Store and the Google Store, and that's why I color coded yellow and well, actually the store is supposed to be green, but I messed up. But that was the history going over what how they kind of split because they used to be together. So
So
it's very confusing.
So the approval process is actually fairly simple for getting onto Google. There's really not much to do. I mean, they do run a security scan on your app, but it's not as proven to be. So it's not very. Apps do slip through. You got the obvious restrictions such as
Right. They
explicit
got the basically
content,
illegal
violence,
stuff.
bullying, anything that it's just common sense. You're not going to want
Right.
on a
Yeah.
store. Um, now these apps are manually reviewed and also as well as automatically reviewed. Of course, it's not perfect, and Android's been arguably needs to increase their approval process because it's quite frequently you hear on the news of apps sneaking their way through the Play Store and and being downloaded by millions of people and using their phone and the app ends up farming using their phone to farm cryptocurrency. This
Yeah. So
Go ahead.
I was just gonna mention that basically, they like in 2017, it was so basic as to their approval process as to what I highlighted and read is basically what's like against the law already. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So it was very basic and not like Apple's.
So this is an issue we could still have to this day with the Play Store is, um, you have the mentality where unless it's good they implemented star reviews to help mitigate sort out the bad apps from the good apps, but the problem is now you have review bombing where people are giving fake reviews for the apps, and people see these 5-star reviews for apps or really high, like 4.4 or something, and they're going to
Yeah,
download these
yeah.
malicious apps or these crap apps that are just cash grabs or to exploit your system or redirect you to a malicious site. And a lot of fraud has happened because of this. And to this day, this is still an ongoing issue, not just on Android, but other platforms as well, including
Oh
iOS.
yeah, I know I've seen some on some of my favorite apps or some of apps that I wanted to download. I've seen some fake reviews. I knew they were fake
Yeah.
because the app sucked. No one used it. You know, some apps that I know for complete trash and they have such high reviews. But anyways, uh, some mobile carriers can block their users from installing certain applications.
So one,
For example,
so one,
you
yeah. So one of the probably the biggest app that carriers did not like is, so it used to cost money to, and for some carriers it still does, where to use a Wi-Fi hotspot on your phone, you need to pay the carrier money to
like tethering. You're talking about tethering?
yeah, or the Wi-Fi
Oh
tethered
yeah,
Wi-Fi hotspot used to cost money. Now people
it
there used
still
to be a,
does, doesn't it?
it's usually
Like
bundled
for
and
me, I got Metro PCS and I have to pay extra
uh,
like $10 extra to get it.
it depends
Get
on the carrier.
points.
But people found ways around this by downloading apps that would
Right, right.
bypass it, and they could use unlimited data without the carrier knowing. So
Yeah, and that's important to mention. And but I actually thought that paying the mobile carrier was actually like I thought it was like pirating a movie. I thought it was illegal to do that, to tether, when you haven't paid for the service. So I don't know what the debate is about that.
it's a gray area for another day for
Yeah,
another topic. Um,
yeah, okay. So Wi-Fi tethering applications are basically are designed to let Windows PC or Mac users to get on the internet, the Android smartphones, and like you were saying, you set it up as a hotspot. I used to do it for my using my PS4, but I actually paid, and when I ran out, I would pay extra. Um, so to play my PS4 online before I had Comcast. So and in March of 2009, an Android developer released a statement to the general public that his Wi-Fi tethering application that he created was removed entirely from the Android market because T-Mobile, which was the exclusive American mobile carrier of the only Android phone on sale in the United States at that time, uh, does not allow the use of Wi-Fi tethering. So and later, Google confirmed that they indeed had pulled the Wi-Fi tethering application from the Android market, which is now Google Play Store, because it violated T-Mobile's terms of service. But a Google spokesperson also said that Google did not intend to pull that application from the Android market entirely. And they said that T-Mobile's users still can't get that application. Google spokesman said, but the ban should not have been applied to Android users running HTC's Dream phone in Singapore and Australia, as well as those who paid extra for an unlocked phone. So, like you said, it's a gray area. I don't, and you know, the laws are probably completely different in each state,
Yeah.
especially now. Back then, they probably didn't even have laws because it was so new, the technology, or not many people used it. But now they probably do. Each state probably's got their own jurisdiction. Uh, but you want to go ahead with
Yeah.
talk about Group Shark?
Yeah, so essentially what Grooveshark was, it was a digital service that offered kind of like Spotify, where you could stream music and download it to anyone. Well, not legitimately. It was kind of like LimeWire back in the day, except for Android. Um, and it was removed because it violated their security policies. And this is an example of not only was apps being used for malicious intent to like get into your phone, but it was also used to Android can be used to carry out illegal acts, not necessarily attacking your phone, but like redirecting traffic, so to say, or even doing illegal service such as illegal music downloading, such as LimeWire, or in this case, uh, Grooveshark. Probably one of the, of course, Android has implemented their own set of security suites to help counter some of these apps. One of the most noticeable one is Google Play Protect, which kind of bundles all the other services, such as Google Balance and peer grouping into one. So essentially, what it is, it's like a antivirus for your Play Store. It scans your app as you download it. It's kind of redundant considering they should already be doing that when they're uploading the app to the store during their screening process, but it's there. You also download third-party apps such as Norton or Bitdefender, and they have their own protection as well if you don't trust Google Play. But that's essentially what Google Play Protect was supposed to be. It's supposed to be like an antivirus built into your phone.
Yeah, yeah, that ask for or require user permission.
Now, places you can find, if you say you want to see all the Google vulnerabilities that have been found on the web or for Android, uh, this is not the only place, but this is one of the places where it gives a pretty good detailed ordered list. It's called CVE Details, and under there they list other exploits too found in other products, but they also have a dedicated section for Android, and there's just from the screenshot alone, looking at the recent days, there's already so many exploits that have been found. But like I said, this is not the only website. There are others out there, but this is one that someone can use.
Quick question. How are you doing on time? I just don't want to make
Uh,
sure we don't
we're almost done. We
go
need to
too
start
long.
wrapping this up. So some of the more common recent vulnerabilities that I found in Android and is Meltdown Inspector. And the thing is, Meltdown Inspector is not just exclusive to Androids. It was just a huge issue with PCs in general, because it was an issue related to the CPU and the ARM chips and the pretty much any chip that was made in the past 20 years. It gave it, if exploited, it gave attacker the ability to gain private information, uh, located on a located on that computer, or in this case Android. Meaning, so someone could, so all you have to do is load up exploited, theoretically. So far, there's been no report case of anyone using Meltdown Inspector for malicious intent, but theoretically, someone could infect a website, and you can just load a website, and they have access to all your files on your Android device. This is also leads into another very, very common exploit found on Android. It's called local privilege escalation. This is recently, this was found in some big suppliers such as Google, Huawei, Xiaomi, Oppo, LG, and Samsung. Where the similar to Meltdown Inspector, they would get access to your full access to your Android device. Except this one was much easier to carry out because all you have to do is infect a app, or simply just there's a bug at the time. There still is a bug in Google Chrome web browser where um, there's a bug in the rendering process for the web pages where they can inject their own malicious code, and it would inject into your phone as your phone loaded the before as your phone would try to load the web page.
It's crazy, man.
Circling around to the Android OS itself, as we mentioned, as we're going through the different iterations of Android, one of the big issues is with having so many different versions of Android 11, and different versions of Android. Each person is open source, so kind of like Linux, you can have several different teams working on different flavors of Android, and they're each responsible to updating their flavor of Android. So that's been a huge issue. So therefore, a lot of devices are not getting updated compared to iOS, where we're updating devices that are 6, 7 years old, and they're still getting latest and greatest patches or security patches, or even devices where Apple has cut said, okay, it's no longer supported. If there's a major security flaw, they'll still go back and patch it just because it's a huge security flaw. Unfortunately, you don't have that privilege with Android because you're heavily reliant on your manufacturer and the person who made that version of Android. Now, what Google has done to mitigate this is they create a program called Android One, which is their answer to iOS, where it's just one version of Android that carriers can use or companies can use, and you're guaranteed. And the rules stay in the program is you have to provide at least 1 year of feature updates for the phone, and at least 2 years of security updates for that phone. And this is
Now, hey, is Android One like is that automatically included with Android 10
no,
flavor,
no,
or is that like a separate?
that's a separate thing. That's up to the manufacturer. So a lot of the Huawei, so a lot of the Chinese manufacturers are using it. Well, you used to be using it until recent bans. But like LG's using them. The Essential phones are using them, and stuff like
Mm,
that.
okay.
In conclusion, um, Android is a very diverse and open source tool similar to Linux. You can do so many things with it. But of course, just like Linux, with such freedom and such responsibility and such flexibility, it's impossible to patch out everything. So with more and more devices becoming part of our social daily lives, we're getting smart speakers, smart integration systems, and stuff like that. Majority of them are using Android, so it's imperative that security becomes a priority for Android. And of
Yeah.
course,
So I
Google has been implementing over the years that has gotten much better in making sure that patches are becoming more mainstream in their devices, and more stuff is getting updated.
Yeah, and I would just like to add in conclusion that Android I grew up personally with Android, so for me this project was not like unlike any other project I've ever done, because I actually, whenever I've done a history of anything, it's always been of something that I, personally didn't live through. But with Android, I've actually personally lived through each of these updates. You know what I mean? Like Lollipop, Marshmallow. Jelly Bean. Like I remember these terms, you know.
Yeah.
I remember when this came out. Like I lived with this, so it's been very fascinating to see uh the progression and the advancement of Android in not just by itself as as a new mobile platform, but also in compare how it is has done in comparison to it's kind of like to me, man. It kind of seems like you know, like the Cold War between Russia and United States, like Android and iOS, you know. And we decided not to talk about, you know, not try to compare the two, but it's kind of like the, you know,
Around,
it's
around,
uh.
around. It's ironically a week before this, I actually switched to Android. But
You did?
anyways, yeah. But anyways, we're
Oh,
good.
that's awesome, dude.
That's it for our presentation.
I feel like this is like Joe Rogan.
All right. Thanks for listening. Bye.